This encore presentation of Disclosure is brought to you by your friends at the Voice of Prophecy. Enjoy!
Well, what a surprise that we still exist here on the radio, because some weeks ago we heard the devastating news that there was an asteroid or a hunk of rock that was headed towards Earth, and it was about the size of, how big was that one? Anyway, it was going to come within 1 million miles of the Earth, so roughly 4 times the distance of the moon away from us. And people were freaking out again. Another asteroid on its way. One of these is going to be the big one that wipes us out.
Sure.
And here we are. We survived. We survived it.
We are still here, Shawn.
And if we suddenly go off the air, maybe another rock hit and we were wiped out. Well, here's what. I got all up in arms because I saw this, not because I was afraid that an asteroid was going to wipe out all life on Earth. I got up in arms because I saw this article that said Mercury is closer to us than any other planet. And it's like, that's not true. We all know it's Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, and so on. But then I slowed down and I thought, well, there must be a reason they did this. This is a pretty reputable journal that said Mercury is the closest planet to us. And sometimes it is. And here's why. Because Venus, although it is closer, is often on the other side of the sun from us. And so there are given moments where Mercury is the closest. So I had to give them points. And it's just a reminder that sometimes before you critique somebody, find out why they said what they said. But we did survive the big asteroid hit.
Yes, we did.
It came within 1 million miles of Earth. And I guess it was going something like, I don't know, 24,000 miles an hour. And I guess if it did hit, it would make a big mess. Yeah.
Definitely.
Not as big a mess as I made in our last episode on marriage and dating, where I said that a good wife is like a fine piece of cheese. It gets better with age. And my wife was not thrilled with being compared to a slice of cheese.
Not the best analogy I've ever heard. Definitely not.
No, okay, but, as you get older, you might smell a little weird, but you'll still be a fine piece of cheese and deeply appreciated.
No, not taking it.
No, what's even funny about that is that I come from, basically the cheese-eating capital of the world, the Netherlands, right?
Yeah, and you're representing well. You're wearing your orange shirt.
I am wearing my Dutch shirt today with the Royal Dutch Lion on it. It's bright orange. I just decided to do that. And I don't like cheese isn't even really part of my life, which is odd for me, but you are, my dear, like a fine piece of cheese.
Okay, I still don't like the analogy, but thank you for the sentiment.
Okay, but what if I make you like a craft single so that you don't smell weird because you're wrapped up? It's an individually piece of...
No, I don't want to be a craft single if I have to be a
What
piece
about
of
vegan
cheese.
You could be vegan cheese.
No, I'd rather not.
You don't even want the word
cheese
attached to your name at all.
No, I'll pass on all of it.
Our subject is marriage and dating from a biblical perspective, and you just heard a marriage on the rocks is what you just heard right there, and we will try and repair it. Actually, we ran out of time last time. We were talking about, what have we learned after 26 long, painful years of cohabiting together in the sacred bonds of marriage. And it's been more painful for you than for me. And we started last time with, it hasn't been painful, folks. It hasn't been painful. But we started with that premise in Ephesians chapter 5, where Paul is describing the relationships between servants and masters, children and parents, and husband and wife. And at the end, he's saying, what I'm really trying to underline here is the relationship between Christ and his church, between God and you. And marriage, he says, is really the prime illustration we have for how God relates to us and maybe some of the relationships that God has in this universe and the lessons. And we were talking, because Jean and I crossed about a year and a bit ago, we crossed the 25th anniversary line, right? What is that? That's your silver anniversary. And it occurred to me that you and I were already dating when my parents had their silver anniversary, and you were there as my date at their 25th wedding anniversary.
I know, it's funny, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I actually bought you a dress for that.
You did? Oh, yeah, you did.
I bought you a dress.
That's right. That cream-colored one.
Yeah, which you never ever wore again.
Well, I did wear it many times after that, but not in recent years.
No. Well, anyway,
Yeah.
I did one time choose a dress
You
for you
did.
and
That's
bought it
right.
for you. And
That's
so
right.
for all those who fail to believe that I am a romantic, well, you're actually right. I'm not a romantic. I mean, I'm not very romantic, am I?
Yeah, you know what you are really good at? You never forget our anniversary.
No, because it's the same
ever.
day as Todd's birthday.
That's not why. Come
Yeah,
on.
no, I
nice
can remember
try.
because Todd's birthday is also the same day.
No, that's not why. But you don't.
Oh, and Susan Lanigan's birthday is the same day.
Susan's birthday is the same day. Isn't
Hey,
Todd's
Susan, are you out
birthday-
there listening? The way I remember my marriage is because we ruined your birthday on our wedding day.
No, but you never forget important dates like that, and you're really good at choosing gifts for me.
I am
You're
not.
Very
You
good.
don't
Yes,
like
you are.
my
You're
gifts.
better at gifts than I am. You
No.
always make me weepy at Christmas and birthdays.
Oh,
and
that's not my
always
goal
surprising
because,
me
you
with
know,
stuff.
men can't handle it when women cry. I don't
Well,
want you to get
like
weepy.
good tears.
I don't
Don't
know.
you?
I
No?
don't know.
Well.
I don't know. Guys, studio guys out there, can you handle it when your wife is crying?
Not really.
Yeah. I don't know. Steven? No. Got a no from Steven. Hareem? No. We can't handle that. So don't do
Okay,
that.
but then stop buying me such meaningful gifts.
I
That's
don't
how
buy
you
you
fix
ma-
that.
Name one meaningful gift I ever bought you.
You always get stuff. Okay, when we were first married, here's one example. When we were first married, I had some records still from my childhood. And
Oh, yeah.
as we were packing up our first apartment to move way up north, we were purging and getting rid of stuff. And you threw away 2 of my records, one of which I won in an ice skating competition when I was a kid. And then about a year and a half or 2 years ago, you found that record somehow, somewhere.
It was not eBay. I found it on eBay. I've been
found it on
looking for
eBay.
2 decades.
And this was not a common record. First of all, it was like a compilation, and it was in Canada, and it was a short run, and you found it, and
Yes,
you gave it to
I
me as a
did.
present.
As a matter of fact, I found 2 of them and ordered them both just in case. Do you know I have a spare?
You have a spare now.
I have a
Oh, that's
spare.
funny.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
So okay. Well, I
That's
didn't
an
think
example.
that's romantic. How is that
Yes.
romantic?
It's thoughtful. It means you think about me and you care about me.
Well, I do care about you, and
Mm-hmm.
I think about you all the time. But how's that a romantic gift? It's not flowers.
No, but you do. You have bought me flowers. Not recently. I
no,
mean, hey,
no. Oh,
there's
boy,
a hint.
here we go.
But no,
Here we go.
you have many times when you've been traveling.
Well, I am Dutch.
Sent me flowers.
I am Dutch. Why would I buy you flowers? That's not practical.
Yeah, you say that on the air, but you're much more romantic than you like to
No,
say.
but flowers aren't practical. It's a waste of money. They're dead in a week.
Oh, we love them.
Why? Why
Because
would
they're
you love something?
beautiful.
Yeah, but why would you love something that's dead in a week?
I don't
You
know.
know, particularly like roses at Valentine's Day.
Yeah, they're overpriced. I always tell you not to do
Like
that
a dozen
at
roses at Valentine's Day is like $3,000,
Yeah.
and they're going to be dead in a week.
And I always tell you not to do that at Valentine's Day. But
Yeah, okay, but if I do it at Valentine's Day, do you hate that?
no,
Why?
I don't send them back.
get it. I don't. Guys, do you get why flowers matter? I don't know. They're not practical at all.
That's why we like them.
No, Ruben's
because
giving a
they're
head
not
shake. No,
practical.
Ruben, do flowers make sense as a gift? Yes or no?
I mean, they keep the household happy, but no.
Yeah, I don't get it. You need practical gifts like a new skill saw.
Or
Oh
drill.
yeah.
Yeah, you need a new skill saw, or maybe something nice for the car, right?
You've bought me stuff for my car before, which I love.
What did I buy you for your car?
You bought me the little cup holder coasters, essentially, that have the same make as my car on them, and they have the same colors as my car.
And you
I
like that?
love those. I
Really?
think they're great. Because, see, it's thoughtful.
Okay,
'Cause it matches
apparently
my car.
it is not that hard to be romantic. You are listening to Sean's School of Romance. You know, Dutch people, they romance their wives in the most practical ways possible.
Well, generally, but you do know how to do gifts.
Okay,
well.
one more question. And we do have to get to our Bible study, but one
Let's do
more
that.
big question I've got to ask you.
Okay.
A blender for Christmas, yes or no?
If I asked for it,
Yeah.
sure.
How about a
Because
vacuum cleaner?
No.
Guys, would you buy your wives vacuum cleaners?
Steve actually
I
did.
actually have
Yeah?
once before.
Really? How'd that go down?
I did it for Christmas, and I got such looks, but I was like, she asked for it.
Yeah,
Oh, she
see,
did.
that's the difference. If we ask for it, it means we really want it. We actually want it.
Well, it seems like a fine gift, a vacuum cleaner.
Yeah.
I think this year you need a new nail gun and a compressor.
See, that there's no
That's
way
what
you
you
could
need.
sell that.
No, you totally need a nail gun and a compressor. That's what you need.
No.
Yeah. All right. We're talking about, we're actually, as you watch our marriage fall apart live in front of the whole world, we're talking about marriage and dating and some of the things we've learned. And what's exciting to me is that if this is actually a school for heaven, and it's a school where you learn about God and his relationship to us, we're, barring an accident or my premature demise, we're about halfway through this now.
Probably.
And or right about there, A lot of people go 50, 55, 60. I've seen 70-year marriages. Can you imagine that? What do you think I'm going to look like at 70th wedding anniversary?
70th.
So I would be
Wow.
95, and I will still have all my hair.
You
And
probably
it won't be
will.
gray. And it won't be gray.
It better be gray by then.
I have a little bit.
Better be.
All right.
Yeah.
Looking back, let's just get started with the conversation. We're talking about what have you learned. And the last time we did this, you mentioned a couple of things. Let's do it in bullet point format. Let's review some of the things that we've learned. What were some of the things you mentioned the last time we talked?
So we talked about Ephesians chapter 5, which you just referenced that verse, and how it really is. I learned, we read in this verse that God's talking about, the man and the woman leaving their parents and forming their own union.
Right.
One flesh.
Oh, yeah. You really underlined that, and I learned something new when you did that.
Yeah, that it was culturally, when this verse was written, the woman would leave her family home and she would join her husband, probably living right under the same roof with the in-laws. And so this really underlined that they were, in fact, a unit now, and the decision-making power lied with them. The older generation, mom and dad, didn't have a say in their deciding their decisions. And I said that it's been tough for us. For most of our marriage, we've lived away from our families.
Yeah, that's
But
right.
I really feel that has allowed us to be the strong family unit that we are, not first as the two of us and now as the
you
four of us.
You consider us strong?
I do.
Yeah,
I think,
so do I.
I think we got the family part right.
Yeah.
Definitely. And so I mentioned that. And what else did we talk about? So I remember, the worst parts of marriage, they're going to happen. It's not just the better or for worse. That's just not a saying.
It's when.
That's real.
Yeah.
But when you remain committed to each other and you are committed to each other, those difficult things, they stretch you and they try you, but they really do make the marriage stronger ultimately.
And there is a little bit of a trench camaraderie.
Right.
And I'm looking at it from the guy's perspective. I said this last time. When guys go to war together, that's how guys bond, right? They don't bond the same way women bond. We don't talk and share our feelings. We share experiences. But I think there is an element of that in marriage as well. These rough patches that you go through are a blessing if you look at them. I mean, everybody hits rough patches. This is not a Disneyland world.
Right.
The reality of marriage is you're going to hit a rough patch, but you can look at that as an opportunity to face a challenge together, come through the other end even more tightly bonded than you were in the beginning. They're playing the music on me.
Already.
It's not even, we should have asked for romantic music today so that I could sing to you about cheese.
Oh my.
And how lovely a fine piece of cheese can be.
Reuben, do not let him do that.
No cheese music. Is there such a thing as cheese music?
Probably.
Gentlemen,
I can think of a
one
lot.
thing you don't do when you date is do not compare your wife to a fine piece of cheese. You may. Kyle just walked into the studio. He's shaking his head. No, don't compare your wife to cheese. No, might smell a little funny, but very nice when they're old. We'll be right back.
Most of us have lost a loved one to death, and the question we wrestle with in our mind is what exactly happens when we die? Do we go to heaven or do we go to hell, as some people believe? Find the Bible's answer to this question in our free Discover Bible guides. You can get them at VOP.com. Click on the tab that says Study, or just call us at 888-456-7933. That's 888-456-7933.
Retirement planning can be a stressful process, but it doesn't have to be. The friendly people at the Voice of Prophecy can walk you through the entire process and explain all of your options based on your specific needs. Whether you'd like to set up a trust for income or make a gift that will benefit your loved ones and change lives through the Voice of Prophecy, we're here to help. To learn more, call 1-800-348-5993.
We're back from the break. We were able to run out of the studio and sort of get a drink of water and do whatever else you need to do when you're spending the whole day in studio. And our discussion today is about marriage and dating and what we can learn as believers from that process, what the Bible brings to the marriage and dating relationship. And it's a big, big subject because you and I have hung out together for 30 years. We've been married for 26.
Can you believe it?
And I know if you're just tuning in that I've been in trouble several times for saying that, you know, a good wife is like a fine piece of cheese. They smell a little weird when they get old, but, you know, they get better with age. And do you know what? Do you know what happened? Do you know what happened during the break? Reuben found a cheese song. There's actually the most romantic song on the internet anywhere. Did you find that, Reuben?
I did. It was beautiful.
All right, let's hear a little bit, just a couple of seconds of this fine romantic ballad that I see Kyle way. All right, here we go. Kyle's way in the background making shoveling gestures like I'm keep digging my hole deeper and deeper. There it is.
Stinky, stinky cheese.
See, the most romantic song on the internet anywhere.
Okay, Reuben, come on. You didn't go there. You did.
Valentine's Day is going to be very special for all the wives of VOP employees.
Oh, dear.
Yeah. All right.
No.
What have you learned over 26 years? Let me throw this in. I mean, the last time we talked, I said, you know, I've started to sense how much it is that God actually loves his bride, that Christ loves his bride. He laid down his life for her, and it was without planning. I didn't train myself for this. This instinct kicks in. I'd take a bullet for everybody else. I would be the first to stand in line to make sure you're okay. And I'm starting to realize that's how God feels about me. He puts me first, which is remarkable. I don't deserve to be first in God's universe. The other one that I mentioned was what a gift somebody's entire life is. Christ gave us everything, laid down his life. And when you get married to someone, it is for life, and they just gave you their one and only lifetime as a gift. That's mind-blowing
huge, isn't
to
it?
me.
It really is.
Yeah. What else have you learned in 26 years about, well, what has it taught you about life, taught you about God? What kinds of things have you been thinking about? Because we've had like some time since the first episode to think.
Yeah. So much, but we talked about getting through the good and the difficult times, and something that you and I, here's something a little more practical.
All right.
Something that you and I intentionally decided at some point, I don't remember when, but we didn't live with this as an unspoken assumption. You and I said this to each other. Divorce is not on the table, and it is not an option.
Ever.
Right.
No matter how dark things get, that will never come on the table because we made a commitment for life, and I think we would rather learn the lesson of getting through the tough patch than calling it quits.
Right.
Now, there are some people out there, I understand there are situations where you didn't have a choice. You're with someone who abuses you and your children or those kinds of things, or they cheat on you.
Yes.
You know,
there are biblical times when divorce is an option. We're not talking about that.
And it may be the only option left. That's not what we're talking about. You and I have decided no matter how much we disagree about something, no matter, you know, there are times of life that are exceptionally stressful. Your career is tough, and then your kids have issues that they need help with, and you're sleeping 4 hours a night for weeks on end, and then there's tension in the home. And we have said right out of the gate, we said that we would take this vow to each other in front of God, and it's for life. And divorce will never be on the table as an option.
You know, and when you, again, just speaking from personal experience, that's all I can do. When we got married, I never even thought that divorce was an option. I mean, you don't even think about that in the beginning of your marriage because everything, even the difficult times, are still kind of dreamy. Yeah. And so, but I think, and maybe there's a couple listening to us now that is past the 5 or 10 year mark of marriage. where reality is really, really sunk in. I think it was.
That sounds like you've been struggling with bitter disappointment since your 10th wedding anniversary.
No, 5th. I said 5 or 10.
5 or 10. So for 21 years,
21
you've been
years.
gritting your teeth and bearing it.
No, that's not what I'm saying. But look, we all know it is not. I think you used the analogy. It's not like a Disney story. This is real life, and real life is not always rosy. But I think there was a lot of power and value for me when you and I just said to each other, we said the words, divorce is not an option.
Correct.
And so if you haven't just said that to your spouse, listeners, I think just verbalizing it's powerful and it's meaningful. It shouldn't just be an unspoken assumption.
Right.
Hearing it from you hearing it from me, I assume that you know that person really believes that it's not just unspoken. So having said that, what else have I learned from marriage? So much. But here's taking it back to how it's shown me what God is like. You have really shown me, Shawn, in your commitment to our marriage and the way that you have kept your promises, and you have always been faithful to the promises you've made to me. You have shown me that I can trust you, a human male who is flawed.
No, wait a minute. What do you mean?
Yes, you're flawed. Well, you're not perfect. You are a human. But me having let myself trust you fully has shown me how much more I can trust God, because if I can trust my life in your hands, how much more shouldn't I be able to trust God, who is perfect and who does see everything? And so it's illustrated for me. It's given me the ability to trust, and to trust you, but to trust Him as well.
Well, let me look at that from a distinctly male perspective. And I think what I have picked up in 26 years of marriage is that I want to make sure I phrase this correctly, that I phrase it exactly. Mm-hmm. I'll put it this way. Vulnerability can be worth it. And I say it that way because I am not naturally vulnerable. I'm an introvert by nature. I don't like lots of extended relationships. I don't like the entanglements involved in millions of friendships. We have a daughter who just never met someone who isn't her best friend. That is not me at all.
She's your opposite.
And I think we all get burned along the way. You make yourself vulnerable and get hurt. Mm-hmm. And so, especially for guys, here I am being vulnerable on the air, which is not a guy thing at all, but you start to say, okay, it's not worth it. I'm not going to expose myself. I'm not going to take these risks. I'm not going to put my intimate details in somebody's hands. Mm-hmm. And yet I put all my intimate, there's nothing you don't know about me. Mm-hmm. I don't think so. I mean, you know me better than I know you. Let's be really, really honest. I mean, you can tell when I'm trying to pull your leg. There's some kind of a twitch in my eye, like, okay, that's not a true story. I just backed into your car, so sorry about it. And you just look at my face and you know that I'm just trying to tease you.
Right.
Vulnerability can be worth it. Now, where's the lesson between me and God? Mm-hmm. Sinners don't like to be vulnerable before God because, sin is based in pride. Sin is based on, I've got it from here, Lord. No, thank you, sir. I'll do things my way. And we're all kind of born with that. And the world kind of drills that into us. You are on your own. Take care of yourself. Watch your back. And then God says, I need you to be vulnerable. You want to be in a relationship with me, you're going to have to confess your sins. You're going to have to admit that you need my help. And I think that may be to a degree why so many men are missing from church, because that doesn't come naturally to us. I've discovered that it can be well worth the risk because you've never betrayed my secrets. Now, secrets makes it sound like I have something heinous in the closet. No, there are no dead bodies in my wake or anything like that. It's nothing heinous.
No.
But I've discovered it can, the rewards of allowing yourself to be vulnerable with someone that you've entered into a covenant with, worth it. And God invites us into a covenant with Him.
Well, and I'll just add to that. It's by nature, I think it's easier for me to be vulnerable, and maybe that's my gender a little bit, but it's my personality. Having said that, it's very, very, very difficult for me to be vulnerable with anyone but you and our daughters. You are my safe space. You're my circle of safety. And so being vulnerable with you it comes more naturally for me. And I think if you can't be vulnerable with your spouse and you then look for someone outside of your marriage that you can be vulnerable with, that's dangerous territory.
No,
and
that's
that's
right.
where you start to become attached to the person or persons you can be vulnerable with. And so if you can't be that with your spouse, I don't think you should be that with anyone personally.
Well, I think that's also where a lot of trouble begins in marriages, when people wander outside the marriage covenant and look for vulnerability and relationships that should exist in the marriage, and then you build them outside, and then suddenly there's an affair.
Yeah.
And that actually teaches you something about God, too. You know, that what's interesting to me is how often God compares his relationship to us frankly, in sexual terms. He's the groom, we are the spouse, and he looks for marital fidelity, and he compares going after other gods to marital infidelity. This is what he would call fornication.
Right.
And so when we form attachments to something other than God and give away what belongs to God, idol worship is the example you find all through the Bible. You're making yourself vulnerable to something or somebody that doesn't really care about you and you can't trust. And God is on the sidelines, frankly, probably hurt, saying, look, you can trust me. Why won't you trust me? And so trust in a marriage is an important skill to learn, and it opens your eyes. Maybe there is something I can trust out there. And there is. I mean, someone, I should say, you can trust God with this stuff. It's worth it. It pays to be vulnerable with God.
Absolutely. That's where the relationship with him really grows. That's where we really can have a deep relationship with God, is when we're willing to open our hearts to him.
Right, right. You know, there was we're going to take a break here in a minute. There's a question I was going to ask you. Maybe I'll wait till after the break. But let me say this. The other thing that I think I've learned over the years is that in a family, in an ideal situation, and again, I want to be careful. If you're not in an ideal situation, God loves you. He can bless your family. But in an ideal situation, one of the things I've seen is that you really do, especially if you're going to raise children, you need more than one perspective. And it's amazing how your perspective and my perspective of the same event will radically differ. Well, they will.
Yeah, that's true.
But they both bring something to it that individually we would have never seen or understood. But the two of us raising children together, suddenly we can see things. And I learned things from how you saw an event and how I saw an event that show me, well, God exists in three persons. And not that they're ever in disagreement. The Bible says they're completely one, right? They're completely in harmony. But God is multifaceted, and by bringing the two of us together, he's teaching us to see the world maybe a little more like he sees it instead of the way that Shawn sees it. Although I'm always right. No, you've been right more than me. I would guess that over the years you've been right more than me.
You think so?
Yeah, but it does blow my mind how we can look at the same event, say with one of our children.
Sure.
And you see it completely differently than me, and I'm thinking, at first I don't like that. No, I'm right. But then you think about it overnight, and it's like, wow, Jean saw something I couldn't possibly have picked up.
And I've had the same experience where your insight helps me to understand something too.
Yay. All right. Hey, we just agreed on something, which is a great end to a segment. We're going to take a little break. Go to voiceofprophecy.com and take a look at the amazing biblical resources we have for you, and we'll be right back.
Disclosure is just one of the programs brought to you by the Voice of Prophecy, like the audio adventure program Discovery Mountain. Discovery Mountain is a weekly Bible-based program for kids of all ages and backgrounds. Your family will enjoy faith-building stories with Jake Donovan, Mr. Simon, and others in this small mountain town. Each summer, campers visit Discovery Mountain, where they sing songs, learn about God, and reenact a Bible story with the help of drama teachers Miss Wendy and Miss Tamra. With 24 full episodes every year and programming every week, your family will have something uplifting to listen to every week. Listen to episodes on demand and watch video features from Director Doug at discoverymountain.com or on your favorite podcast platform. That's discoverymountain.com.
If you are just tuning in, you are listening to Disclosure Talk Radio, brought to you by the good people at the Voice of Prophecy, on the air since what year? 29. Since 1929. I haven't been on the air since 1929, or I too would be like an old piece of cheese. Smell a little
Smelly,
weird.
smelly cheese.
Smelly cheese.
Yes, and if you missed the first half of the program, you are not going to catch that reference, but you're going to want to go back and listen to it.
Yeah, you will.
Yes.
You will see my romantic arts at their finest.
At their finest.
At
Dear
their
me.
finest. And if for some reason you did not care for the cheese analogy, please write your complaint letters to Jean Boonstrup, Box 999, Loveland, Colorado. The zip code on that is 80539.
And I know where to find you. I'll pass them right along.
No, I'm not reading the complaints. I know I'm terrible. All right, we're talking about, this is like the romance suite of disclosure programming, because this is our second episode on the subject of marriage and dating. And the reason that Jean and I have decided to chit-chat about marriage and dating is because, A, we're still learning about it 26 years into a marriage. And I know some are listening that you've been married for 50 years, and I know what you're thinking. Just wait till you see what happens in the next
boy.
quarter century.
Sure.
Agreed. I can't wait to see what else I'm going to learn, what kinds of challenges come our way, and so on. It is fun to grow old with someone. It is, and it is rewarding. But we're looking back too and looking at the next generation coming up, and we've got girls who are entering that phase of life, or they may or may not be out looking for a spouse and getting into dating. And so that's what we're talking about, because the Bible has lots to say about it, and the Bible talks about the fact that the marital relationship is meant also to teach us about God's relationship with us. And I remember a book that I read some time ago. It's been on the market for quite a few years. And I seem to remember, I don't know all the details, so this isn't a radical endorsement of the book in any way, shape, or form, but I think the book was called like Sacred Marriage. And I don't remember the author's name. But he makes this one point in like 200 or 300 pages. And the point is this: the purpose of marriage is not to make you happy, but to make you holy. It doesn't mean that happiness doesn't come in the wake of that, but he's very real. Not every day of marriage is perfectly happy. That's a myth. It doesn't work that way. And his argument is that God puts us in a marriage relationship not to teach us to be happy, but to teach us to be holy, to teach us about himself. So do you personally think there's any merit in that concept? Do you think the world might be getting it wrong when they keep underlining this idea that marriage is there to make you happy, that you're going to find the one person who completes you, and that marriage is about personal fulfillment?
Wow. There are a lot of questions within that question.
There are.
First, I think as I've grown in my spiritual walk with God, I really believe, not just in marriage, but in all aspects of life, that no one has been promised happiness. Happiness is fleeting, but what God does promise us is joy. And those are two different things. Joy.
Okay, unpack that a little bit, because I'm not
Okay.
sure that everybody thinks that way anymore.
Yeah, it's something that I have had to transition into myself and my own thinking, my own walk with God. But to be happy, that's where you're enjoying an experience and things are light. That's the way I think of happiness. Things are light and things are fun and things are maybe easy. That's different from joy, where joy is where you say, okay, Lord, you have promised me good things. You have promised me a future. And in the marriage context, I say, I have a husband I love. I have the basic
What?
necessity.
What?
Like you didn't know that. Come on.
Yeah. Who is this man?
I'll introduce you. But even if, say, we're in the middle of a fight or things are not going
Never
well in the
happens,
home.
folks. Does not happen.
Yeah, we never fight. We're both oldest children in our families. We're both stubborn. Yeah, we fight. But say that you're in the middle of a fight or things are not going well for whatever reason. There are a myriad reasons, but you can still have joy because the foundation is solid. And that's the difference. I mean, happiness, depends on circumstances. Joy is a commitment and a deeper purpose. It goes much deeper than momentary happiness. That's how I think of it. And so I think God does promise us that joy. We can experience joy in life, even when we don't feel happy and smiley. That wouldn't be realistic to think that we're going to go around happy and smiley every day of our marriage.
Right.
So again, back to the marriage context. So in Scripture, God talks about his covenant with his people.
Right.
After the flood, God covenants in the book of Genesis. He says that I will establish my covenant with you and with your descendants after you. So he's establishing that relationship with his people. And then let me just flip over here, Shawn, to Leviticus 26. Leviticus 26, verse 12.
Let me get that too.
This is a beautiful verse, and in its original context, it's talking about God's relationship with Israel. And it says, verse 12, I will walk among you and be your God, and you shall be my people. And spiritually, that applies to each and every one of us who are believers, that we are part of that covenant promise where God promises he is our God. We are his people.
Wow.
And really, our marriages are an example of that, aren't they? You and I have we promised to each other more than 26 years ago now, that we're each other's person. we are committed to each other. And so in that commitment, I don't know that every day we will be well, I do know every day we're not going to be happy in that.
Right.
But we can,
especially when you're being stubborn and you know I'm right.
Right.
Those are the most unhappy days.
I'll admit I'm stubborn, but you're just as stubborn.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. You're wearing that orange shirt for a reason.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's a Dutch shirt, by the way.
It's a Dutch shirt.
The Dutch are known for being rather blunt.
Well, and I definitely have Scottish blood in my line. So
there you go.
There's that. But in spite of the daily frustrations and things that don't make us happy and giddy and smiley, we have that promise to each other, just as we have that covenant God has with his people, and there's that deep, solid joy that's underneath all of it.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Wow. I do tend to agree with this premise that marriage is primarily to make you holy and secondarily happy. I think happiness comes. I would use the word, you're using joy for that. Peace is sort of the way that I've thought about that, is like, okay, not everything's great today, but I have peace. There is something solid here.
Similar concept.
That I can rely on. And in the idea that, I think a lot of people now are approaching marriage and relationships looking for that person who completes you, as if, it's all about my personal fulfillment. I got to find the person that makes me happy. That's backward. If you pursue your own happiness, and I know I'm a big believer in life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that everybody should have the absolute liberty to chase those things, that society works best when you leave people alone in their own pursuits. But the pursuit of happiness is a bit futile because your favorite subject is still you. And, the Bible talks in Proverbs chapter 16, or Proverbs chapter 30, it talks about things that are never full. It starts in verse 15. There are 3 things that are never satisfied, 4 that never say enough. Okay, so the grave is one of those.
Okay.
The graveyard's never full. Okay, that's enough dead people. There's always going to be more. It never gets to the end. The barren womb, that leaves a woman aching forever and ever. The earth that is not satisfied with water. It can rain once, not going to... And so, the fire that never says enough, it won't burn any more stuff. And so and it goes on for a bit, but I'm looking at human selfishness now. I think that I would add that to the list of things that are never satisfied. So, for example, somebody who has an addiction to whatever it is. Some people eat emotionally, some people shop emotionally, and they're looking for something to complete them, and they go out and say, okay, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to buy a new suit of clothes.
XYZ.
Yeah, I'm going to buy, and I'll feel amazing. And they feel amazing for 4 minutes, and then the emptiness comes back because The pursuit of personal happiness, looking for someone else to make you happy, that will never get to the end.
Right.
And if you approach marriage that way, you're going to be disappointed because that person does not exist to complete you. The only one who completes you in this universe is Christ at any rate. That's what you're looking for. But in the marriage covenant, he's trying to teach you how that happens. He empties himself for you. And so in marriage, he's trying to teach you to live for somebody else. And it is remarkable how when you put someone else's happiness at the top of your agenda, one morning you wake up and realize, I have peace of mind. I'm happy because I wasn't chasing me now. And I think in marriage, God puts you in a situation where you can actually live for somebody else's happiness. And that's not an easy lesson, I'll be honest. We're all selfish, and there's a lot of days you want to take care of your needs first. It doesn't lead to happiness. And I think that might be one of the things you learn in there.
Yeah, definitely. And you know what I think is satisfying, and being married this long, we've experienced this, when you put your spouse's desires and needs for personal fulfillment ahead of your own.
Like a back rub tonight? Can I have like a shoulder rub tonight? While I've got you in this spot where you have to meet my needs.
Oh dear, we can negotiate. But no, when you do that and that other person is matching you and doing that for you, that level of personal fulfillment, it happens. It arrives because you're both wanting the best for each other. And so it creates a really healthy situation. Let me throw out just a real example. I've always wanted to pursue my master's degree. You've known that.
Yeah.
But I mean, if our situation had been different and God hadn't thrown us right into ministry, I would have just gone straight from my bachelor's degree into a master's degree, and I probably would have kept on going.
PhD and fellowship. Yep.
Probably. Maybe it's because my earliest years were spent living on a college campus. I'll blame my dad for that. But that's always been part of what I've wanted to do. And so when the opportunity arrived a couple of years ago for me to pursue my master's program, you supported me, even though it took time away from the family. You realized she doesn't really need this. It's not going to change what she does for her career or for what she does for God. But it was something I personally really wanted to do. And so I started that journey knowing you were behind me 100%, even though you didn't necessarily see the value in it as I did. And recently, I made the decision that I'm not going to continue with that program.
The director of the program probably just heard that on the air.
She may have. But I made that decision personally because I'm so involved with so many different things in ministry, and this particular degree wouldn't change what I did for God. But, there was deep meaning and satisfaction for me to go through the process as far as I needed to go, and for me to be able to make that decision for myself, knowing that you supported me, whichever decision I made. Yeah. And I know you still do. And so that's that sort of symbiotic relationship that marriage allows when you support the other person and you create the opportunity for them to pursue personal fulfillment.
It runs against our grain to submit to somebody else's needs. But God needs us to learn that, because we will only find true happiness in submitting to His will.
Right.
And we think we're so selfish, we have trouble coming to grips with that. But I think marriage is a great classroom to learn that in. Oh my goodness, I'm happier this way. Yeah. We're going to take a little break, and then I'm going to come back and ask you if you believe in soulmates, that there is only one special person out there that you could ever be happily married to. We'll be right back.
As you may know, the Voice of Prophecy is supported by people just like you. We provide Christ-centered programs and Bible studies free of charge so that no one is left out. If you've been blessed by these programs and would like to pay it forward, we invite you to visit vop.com/give to make your tax-deductible donation. We're equipping the world for Christ to come, and your support will make a direct impact on so many lives. That's vop.com/give.
You toss and turn in bed and find yourself awake in the middle of the night. Your mind is in turmoil and you're overstressed with the stuff of everyday life. You need peace and calm in the middle of the storm. The answer you need is found in our free Discover Bible Guides. You can get yours by contacting us at VOP.com. Click on the tab that says Study, or call me at 888-456-7933. That's 888-456-7933.
Well, here we are, locked in studio together, discussing the fact that we've been locked in marriage together for 26 more than that now, by the time you're listening to this.
More than 26.
It's been more than 26 years. We are on the 27th floor of our marriage.
There you go.
Hopefully there are 50 or 60 floors in here because, and you know the rule, right? I die first. That has to be the way it goes because I don't want to be the one left behind.
It doesn't always work out that way.
Now, how does that for following up a segment on how living selflessly for others is the better way to go? I'm planning to die first. Statistically, actually, we do go first.
Statistically, but it doesn't always work out that way.
Let me ask you this, and you know, I didn't cue you up for this at all, but traditionally, not always, but traditionally, women have married guys who are a little bit older than them, and we're about 2 years apart,
Yeah,
a
we're
little less than that.
Yeah.
No, less than 2 years.
A little less than 2 years.
Little less than
right.
2 years. Why do you think that is, that it pairs up that way? I have a theory, but I'd like to hear from you.
Well, I think it generally girls mature faster than boys.
Yeah, that's
and we're typically attracted to men who are a little bit older than us just because we can relate better. There are exceptions to the rules. Sometimes guys are mature at a younger age, and a girl who's a little bit older is attracted to a younger man. But I don't know. Generally, it seems that a little bit of an age gap with the guy being the older one is more typical.
You see how this plays out in the end, though, right? Because we live a few years less than women do on average, too. So I'm a couple of years older than you. Mm-hmm. I'm programmed probably to live 2 years or 3 years or 5 years shorter than you. That leaves you in the home stretch by yourself for like 7 years. And so you'll finally experience some liberty.
Some liberty.
Yeah.
Oh, dear.
When I fall silent, you win all the arguments when I'm dead.
Yeah. The house will be so quiet because you are a very non-stereotypical male in that you out-talk me.
No, that's not true.
Oh,
no,
goodness,
that's not
yes,
true.
you
No.
do.
I'm quiet. I like long, protracted. I like long, protracted episodes of silence in our home. Don't deny that part.
Yes, you do. Absolutely.
I am a monk.
But when
times.
you're not in that phase, you are the talker.
That's not true.
Really?
No, that's not true. Actually, all my report cards in school said I talk too much. All of them. Teachers like, and the teachers would tell me this will never come to any good. I wish those teachers were alive right now. I am actually making my living talking.
Yes, you are. If
Look
they could
at that.
only hear it now.
Yeah. All right. I promised before the break that we would get to, and I guess I'm trying to debunk. No, that's not fair. Now I'm stacking the deck in this question, but Hollywood in modern society kind of has a twisted view of love that they think is a correct view of love. And before the break, we were talking about, if you expect other people to complete you and make you happy, you've got it backwards.
Right.
In marriage, you're going to learn that submitting your will to someone else makes you happy, that living for someone else's happiness completes you. And that's one of the lessons we learn about our relationship with God. But then I said, what about soulmates? Because I still hear, I know it's maybe an antiquated term, but I still hear people, and frankly, I hear more females than males use this expression. There's a soulmate. My soulmate is out there somewhere. There's only one person out there who is my ideal mate. In your opinion, is that true? Does God handpick people, before they're born, and it's only this one person you could ever be happily married to? And, there are some implications in this discussion that aren't going to make every listener happy, but what do you think?
Okay, here's the very short answer with the longer explanation. I think no, there is not just one soulmate for one person in this world. Yeah,
that's where I am too.
So,
I've run across so many people, I think, since I've met you that I think, oh, what about her?
Really?
No, that has never happened. That's true. That's not true, right?
I know, but I can't believe you even dared to joke.
No. It's not
funny.
true at all. No,
I know it's
I'm
not.
so happy.
But
I am, frankly, so happily married. It's almost sickening.
Yeah. Well, that's okay. It can be sickening.
All right.
So the answer, first of all, too, I want to disagree with what you just said, which is you think that women have this tendency more than men. I don't think so. I think with when you're dating, I think the guys equally have this, just as the girls.
Looking
There
for the
may
one
be
soulmate?
The one soulmate, and maybe
You think we're deeper than we really are.
and you know what? I think men are more visually oriented than women are, and I think sometimes
Yes.
they want her to look a certain way more so than we do. We obviously, and here we are so generalizing here, it's crazy, but I think we as females, we definitely want to be physically attracted to the person we date.
Sure.
But I think maybe,
But it doesn't matter as much.
No, I don't think it does. And I think for guys, you might be holding out. Maybe a non-attractive girl is you think maybe she's your soulmate, but you're holding out for the one who looks like you want her to look and is your soulmate.
Wow.
So I would not say it is a female thing. I think it's across the board, male and female.
All right.
Definitely.
I'll take that.
Yes. So
Is there only one person in the universe?
No.
You say no.
I say no, but let me clarify. I do absolutely believe that God handpicked you for me.
No,
and
I
me
feel the
for
same.
you.
I feel the same way.
I very much feel
Had
that
we
way.
not met, the big question is, now this is speculative, would there have been someone else? I probably would have been.
Yeah, I have to think so. And I think that God definitely, neither of us were believing Christians, even though we'd been raised in churches. Neither of us were believing Christians when we met. And God brought us together to him, and we grew in our relationship with God together, which is powerful. And I wasn't a Christian young woman praying to God to send me the right spouse, as my daughters do. They pray and they talk to God about this, but God still sent the right person.
Yeah,
and
I feel
so
the same way.
even before I even knew to ask, he connected us to each other. So I very much feel he was in that process. Do I feel like he has our future sons-in-law chosen for our daughters? Yes, I believe that.
I have
100%.
words. I have words for God every night about that.
You talk to him about that. Yeah.
I do not like young men.
You're going to have to let that go eventually, though,
Nope,
and let
nope. Stay away from my daughter.
2 men into our family.
You've heard it here on the
eventually.
airwaves. Get anywhere near my daughter, and you will meet the wrath of Shawn.
No, young man, I'll help you. I'll be
Actually,
on
your dad
side.
was really nice to me.
Wasn't he?
Yeah,
I know.
He was really nice to me.
Yeah, if
I
you
don't
hadn't-
understand that. We should get him in studio because I don't get how he pulled that off.
Well, if it wasn't for my dad, we wouldn't have even met each other.
Oh, we met
so.
through your father. How
We met
creepy
through
is
my
that,
dad.
right? Actually, he
another
invited me
story.
home with a friend, and there was your picture on the wall. I thought, ooh. See, well, visually oriented. I just
Yeah.
proved your point. I don't know.
But well, here's the thing too about, is there one soulmate for one person? Things happen in marriages. A spouse dies young, dies early. Does that mean that when you remarry, that this second spouse is not, that you can't have the same depth of relationship with your second spouse because there was only one real spouse for you?
Sure.
I don't believe that. I believe that God wants to bless that second union in the case where someone is widowed, and that would disprove the idea that there's only one person for every person in this world,
Right.
in my mind. What do you think
Well,
about
I don't know.
it?
I
What
think
are your thoughts?
I think if you invite God into the process, he definitely gets involved. I do believe that you were handpicked for me. I think God arranged that, and there's no time today to go over the whole story. I think there are clear indicators of it, but I also don't believe there's just one special person in the universe that you could ever be happy with.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure. I think that's a Hollywood ideal, that you will be unfulfilled till you find that one person. The one person you're really looking for in this universe is Christ,
Right.
to be honest.
Yeah.
And that's really the only place you're going to find fulfillment. And honestly, marriages become far more fulfilling when he is involved. There's really 3 people in a marriage: husband, wife, and God. There is. There are stories in the Bible. Well, let me say this first. It seems to be the case that arranged marriages actually in this world survive better than the ones that come through the romantic dating process. They actually survive better, which means that there are people in this world to this day who have not met their future husband or wife until their parents choose it and line it up.
Right.
And somehow those turn into very fulfilling, happy marriages. I guess you could argue that God made the parents pick the right people or whatever it is. But okay, let's talk about Isaac and Rebekah. Right. Eleazar get sent out to go pick a wife. I am so glad my parents didn't pick somebody to drive around the country and find me a wife. I got to find you. That was exciting to me. But Eliezer prays, right?
Right.
Whatever girl, Lord, is perfect for this boy.
Let her be the one.
Let her be the one that comes out and doesn't just give me a drink, but waters all the animals. So he puts out this fleece, as Christians like to refer to it, from the book of Gideon. And sure enough, Rebecca comes out, and so God did play a role. And it is my conviction that if you are a young person and you are in the market for a spouse, to put it in market terms, ask God. And I have tried to encourage our daughters. I don't know how that's going to play out yet because they're not married and they haven't even found their fiancés yet. But I think that if you put in front of God, I want someone that I can worship you with.
Yes.
I want someone who values you, Lord, like I value you. I want someone who has the same goals in this life as they relate to you, Lord. I think that if you ask for those things, I think God smiles. God answers prayers that are in accordance to His will. That's what Jesus taught us. And I think if you're looking for God's will to be done in marriage, that He'll definitely play a role. And so you can safely put yourself in God's hands there. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. And God hears those prayers, as you said, and He honors them. He wants us to be well matched in our marriages, and He wants healthy marriages where He thrives and we're able to be a blessing to the rest of the world through healthy marriages.
Yeah, I think so. So I guess the long and the short of it, we're going to run out of time today again, and there was so much that I wanted to talk about because honestly, Paul's completely right. That marriage is, and we're referring back to Ephesians chapter 5, verse 30 onward or so, after Paul talks about human relationships and tells us that we should be learning about Christ's relationship to us. There is so much that I've learned. There is so much in marriage that I have found illuminates what I read in Scripture. Suddenly things make sense to me, and I'm not even sure I can put them all in words, but there are things that now make sense to me that wouldn't have made sense to me about God's character had I not experienced something not alike, but similar in the marriage covenant. So let me say this while we're on the air. It's just, I thank God all the time, especially when you are asleep late at night. I look at you and I thank God, like, how did I get so lucky? How did I get somebody like this who's willing to give me as a gift her whole life, and that I can use that experience to learn more about you, Lord? And I know that we get married till death do us part, but I'm hoping somehow this goes on beyond that when I get to heaven, I get to look you up, and I'm going to be able to do that because I'm not remarrying if you go first.
Oh, yes. Well, again, I'll say this for the record. I don't want you to be alone if something happens to me.
Oh, I'm good alone.
Come on.
I'm good. Men are really good alone. Actually, God said the opposite.
Not.
Right? God looked at Adam and said, it is not good for the man to be alone. And that's probably true in many cases. It doesn't seem to be the other way around.
No.
It is not good for the woman to be alone.
We seem, and you were talking about this a few minutes ago, how statistically, you're going to go first.
Yep.
That doesn't always happen. My maternal grandmother, she had a massive brain aneurysm and she died at 62.
Wow.
And my granddad was not equipped to handle that emotionally at all. And the rest of his years were difficult for him. They were difficult. And so God gives us each other because we need each other in this life. I really believe that.
There you go. Yeah, it is not good for the man to be alone. That is the statement that God made, and that's before sin. And for most men, it really isn't good for us to be alone. But God's not alone. God is love, and He expresses love perfectly. And so you've got three persons in the Godhead, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, where perfect love can be expressed. And what God does is give us human relationships that can help us start to try and understand what the love of God is actually like. Have a look at voiceofprophecy.com. You'll find more episodes in this series. You might want to take a peek at discoverycenters.com because we are opening centers where you can go to study all across North America and find more resources and people who want to study like you do. You've been listening to Disclosure Talk Radio from the good people at the Voice of Prophecy. I am Shawn, and you are Jean, and until next time, we'll meet you again.